Two Bottles of Relish, a mystery radio drama by Lord Dunsany, directed by Jojo Knott, brought to you by the Clear Lake High School Theater Department.
Jeffrey Smithers, played by Jordan McClelland.
James Lindley, played by Thomas Harrison.
Joe, played by Kaylee Linhoff.
Alf, played by Samantha Madsen.
Inspector, played by Eleanor Soltis.
Renting Agent, played by Luisa Enriquez.
Smithers is my name. I'm what you call a small man in a small wave business. I travel for Noom Noom, a relish for meats and savories, the world-famous relish, I ought to say. It's really quite good, no acids or anything in it. I wouldn't have got the job if it weren't. I hope to get something harder to sell someday, because that's where the money is, but at present, I can just make my way. But then I live in a very expensive apartment. That's part of the whole story I'm telling you. It's not the sort of story you'd expect from a small man like me, but there's nobody else to tell it, and those that do know it besides me are all in for hushing it up. Frankly, I wish I'd never had anything to do with this, that I'd heard nothing about it. Murder is not what you'd call in my line, especially a murder like this, but now I feel that it's got to be told. I was looking for a room to live in London. Central had to be on account of my job. I went to a block of buildings that looked to be the thing, but rather gloomy.
Why, yes, sir. I have just what you want, I think.
Fine, let's go up and take a look at it.
I beg your pardon, but...
Looking for rooms too, eh? Come along, come along.
Well, I don't want to, push myself, you know?
Push yourself? Absurd. You're looking for a flat, right?
Yes.
Well, so am I. No sense in having this poor fellow make 2 trips around the premise.
Well, thank you very much.
Right this way, sir.
You were about to say, sir?
Well, as a matter of fact, I was going to say that I'm afraid.
Afraid that the type of apartment I'm looking for wouldn't exactly suit you, eh?
Why, that's right. If you'll pardon my saying so, you look as though you'll want rather more than that.
Here it is, sir. This is the apartment I spoke of.
It is rather nice. Airy, too.
And you see, sir, there's a sitting room, bedroom, and a bathroom. All very nice, self-contained and private, sir.
How much you asking for this perfect apartment?
£50 the quarter.
Rather expensive.
Well, sir, if you want a good thing, you gotta pay for it these days.
Yes, of course.
Look, sir, I don't want to butt in on this, but...
If the 2 of us took this flat, shared it, I mean, we could do very well indeed, don't you think, Mr...
Smithers. Jeffrey Smithers, but that's exactly what I was about to suggest. I'd be glad to pay half, and I wouldn't be in the way much.
Well, I think, I rather think that it's a good idea.
Then you'll do it?
Why not?
It was really nice of you to agree to this, sir. I don't know just what to say.
Nonsense, Smithers. By the way, my name's Lindley. James Lindley. Might as well get acquainted if we're going to be living together, eh?
Oh, yes, sir, and I think it's going to work out perfect. Just absolutely topo. This whole thing needs a lot of explaining. That's obvious. And I'll tell you why I did it. I can't afford it, of course, but I could tell that after one look at this Lindley, that he was a well-educated man. Oxford, probably. And I said to myself, what's the Oxford manner worth in business? I say, especially in a business like mine. If I picked up only a quarter from this Lindley, I'd be able to double my sales. I mean, you don't have to quote the whole of the Inferno to show that you've read Milton. Half a line will do it, but about the story. You mightn't think that a little man like me could make you shudder. Well, I soon forgot about Linley's Oxford manner, but I'd find him continually knowing just what I was going to say next. Not thought reading, you understand, but what they call intuition. I've been trying to learn chess to help me take my mind off of Noom Noom, and I spent the evenings trying to work out problems. I never did very well, but Linley would come along, glance at the problem, and then...
You'd probably move that piece first, I think. That queen, I think.
But where shall I move it?
One of those 3 squares.
One of them? But it would be taken on any one of them.
Yes, but it's not doing you much good. Probably calls for you losing it. Try it out.
Well, let's see. I move here, and then here, and then...
No, that one.
Oh, yes, of course. And then there. It's right. It was absolutely right. Do you know, Linley, with your being able to think like that, why, you could be almost anything. Detective, for instance. Isn't that what a detective is supposed to do? Put himself in a criminal's place and figure out how he did a certain thing? And what he'll do next?
I imagine he does, yes. But why a detective? There are so many other things.
Oh, it's in my thoughts, I suppose. This murder at Unge, you know.
Murder at Unge? I'm afraid I don't know anything about it.
Why, it's been in all the headlines for days.
Never noticed it.
Well, I suppose you'll laugh at me for it, but the reason I'm interested in it is, well, a bloke named Seeger, what's expected. Seems he bought 2 jars of Noom Noom, the relish I sell. It was in all the papers. A thing like that does help sales, you know.
I imagine it does.
I wonder with all that knack you have for seeing through a chess problem and thinking of one thing and another that you don't have a try at that mystery. It's a problem as much as chess.
There's not the mystery in 10 murders that there is in one game of chess.
It's got Scotland Yard beaten.
Has it?
Knocked them endwise.
It shouldn't have done that. What are the facts? Tell me about it.
Well, this fellow, Seeger, his name is, was down at a bungalow in North Downs with a girl. Nancy Elth, she was. And they'd just been married. She had something like 200 pounds along, and one day she just disappeared, and Scotland Yard can't find a trace of her.
What made them decide to look for her in the first place?
He told conflicting stories, for one thing. One day he'd say that she was in South America, and the next it was South Africa, and like that all the time. And then besides, the police in the town began getting a little suspicious of him for other reasons. So they finally got a warrant to search his house.
As soon as I found out he was a vegetarian, I knew it was him who did it.
It ain't proved he's done anything yet.
If he ain't done anything, where's the girl? After all, they got married only 2 months ago. We've been watching this place now for a whole week, and we haven't seen her. All we seen is this Seeger fella cutting down them larch trees. Them beautiful larch trees was a credit to the county. That's a criminal offense itself. We should have taken him in for that at once.
Now, look, we're supposed to search this place to see if we can find any signs of criminal doings. Not talk. We ain't got nothing to show criminal behavior so far.
Didn't he say his wife had gone to South America and only the next day say that she went to South Africa? And a vegetarian. You can't trust them kind.
Bernard Shaw's a vegetarian, and he's all right. What about him?
Well, what about him? That beard and always in the newsreels and whatnot? They're all queer, I tell you. Look what I found in the drawer. An axe.
There you are, see? That proves it. He chopped her up with the axe. We gotta look some more, that's all. You go round the back and see whether there's any signs of digging in case he buried her. Joe! Joe!
Aye?
Joe, have you looked to the chimney?
Oh, aye. There's nothing there. We've been watching it for a long time from the woods out there. No smoke from the chimney. Only a little stove when he did some cooking. A butcher's knife. That's it. That's what he done it with.
Let me see it, Joe.
That
looks right sharp.
That's what he done it with. Then, with the butcher's knife, he stabbed her when she was sleeping. Doubtless. And I found a file. A wicked big file. Here it is.
There's no blood on it.
Might be he washed it off. And the knife, too.
Did you look for the digging?
Aye, there's been none. Not around here.
What could he have done? The woodpile, that's it. Look in the woodpile.
There's nothing there. We've been watching that place grow since he started to cut down the marches. A shame that was. A crying shame. That's right, Alf. Can't see why he cut them down. It was beautiful.
Maybe he didn't do it after all.
But he's a vegetarian, Alf. He must have done it.
Well, I suppose you're right, but how?
With the axe or the knife.
Or the file. No, not the file. Well, anyway, we've got one thing solved.
What's that, Alf?
She's been murdered. We don't know how, but she's been murdered. All we need is one thing.
Only one?
Yes, we've got to find the body. What did he do with it? That's what we've got to find out. What did he do to the body?
I ought to warn you before I go any further. I'm a small man myself, and you probably don't expect anything horrible from me, but I ought to warn you that this man, Seeger, was a murderer. Or anyway, somebody was. The woman had been disposed of, a nice pretty girl too, and the man that had done it wasn't necessarily going to stop at things you might think he'd stop at. With a mind to do something like that, and with the shadow of a rope to drive him further, you can't say what he'll stop at. Murder isn't exactly a nice thing, you know. But I've done enough of that. The story is the thing here. I've warned you all nice and proper now, and I'll get back to what you want to hear. I told the whole thing to Lindley, just as I'm telling it to you, and he just sat there, not saying anything for a few minutes. Well, Lindley, what do you make of it?
It's what you'd call a rum go.
It certainly is.
And of course, if they don't find the body, they have no case. You can't prove a murder without the body.
No, sir.
Think you could have put it down the drains?
No. Scotland Yard has been into that, and the people at Unge before that, they've had a look in the drains, such as they are, and nothing has gone down.
And you say he didn't burn it?
He had no fire, only a fire in the small stove now, and then that he used for cooking.
It's all there. I know that everything is there, but I can't put my finger on it. There's every possible thing to show that he killed her.
It's rum.
The only thing that puzzles me are those trees. Why would he want to cut down those trees? Oh, what's the use? I give up.
You can do chess problems.
That's 10 times harder.
Then why don't you do this?
I'd like to. It's really beginning to get under my skin a bit.
You say it's easier than a chess problem.
I can see the chessboard in front of me.
That's so.
There's only one thing to do, Smithers.
What's that?
You'll have to go down there. You'll have to go down to Unge and look things over for me.
So I went to Unge. First thing I thought was it was a nice place to come on a honeymoon. And then when I thought that he killed her there, well, I'm only a small man as I've said, but I thought, wouldn't it be funny if it turned out to be me after all that got that man killed? If he did murder her. So I found my way up to the little house and began prying about the garden.
Here. What are you doing in this here garden?
Just looking around, officer.
Looking around, eh? Well, you can't look around here.
It's public property, ain't it?
Oh, pretty big for your boots, ain't you?
Well, officer, to tell you the truth, this is on my regular sales route, and I thought I'd drop by and take a look at the scene of the crime, so to speak.
Commercial traveler?
Yes. My name's Smithers. I'm traveling in Noom.
Noom. That's the stuff?
That's right. So you see, officer, I have sort of a professional interest with what the alleged criminal, I should say, having bought 2 jars of it.
Oh, I?
I'll say one thing. It shows that the alleged criminal, I should say, it showed that he had his wits about him, using a good relish like Noom.
My wife's been thinking of buying some. Says we might as well try some of the stuff. She gets ideas like that once in a while. I mind last year when she thought I should have orange juice for breakfast. Orange juice. Another one of them newfangled notions like this here vegetarianism that he has.
Huh? Oh, yes. And what did your wife do about buying Noom?
Ain't done nothing about it. She's just thinking of it.
Well, by some happy chance I happen to have a few jars of it right here in my case if you'd let me come in and set it down.
Why, certainly. Just put it here. That's an uncommon heavy case to be carrying around.
It certainly does tire a man. Where's the chair? Ah, that's done it.
So, this is the famous Noom. Looks all right.
It is all right. no deltrious acids, and guaranteed not to harm the heart.
Think I'll buy a couple to take home to the wife. How much are you asking?
1 in 6. Regular prices too, Bob, but for you, seeing as you've been so decent, I'll let you have it for 1 in 6.
Done.
There you are.
And there's my part of the bargain.
So this is the murder cottage.
Aye.
Cozy place.
Aye, although strictly speaking, it's not the murder cottage.
Not the murder cottage. Where was she murdered then?
Far as we can say at the moment, she's not been murdered. You understand? Not until we find a body.
And you've got to stay around here until they find one. Rum.
Aye, rum it is. But we're certain he did it, and we'll find it out yet.
What makes you so certain?
Well, first place, he's a vegetarian.
Huh?
Flighty chaps, these vegetarians. Queer-like. Not all there in the noggin, if you know what I mean.
The thing I can't see is why you didn't come in and search the place right away.
Well, you can't do that. No one had been inquiring about the girl, and there's no warrant out or anything.
And what did you find when you went in?
Just a big file and the knife and the axe he must have got to chop her up with.
But he got the axe to chop trees with.
Well, yes, he did that.
And what did he chop them up for?
Well, my superiors have theories about that they mightn't tell to everybody. And I think that's a rattling shame myself. Them trees was a fair sight in the county.
Those logs are certainly a problem.
Oh, aye.
Do you suppose he cut her up at all?
He may have not. It's all in your way of looking at it. These vegetarians will do anything to my way of thinking.
Well, the more I look at it, the more it seems to me that those trees...
What about them?
They might be the clue to the whole thing. He must have wanted them down for something besides a pile of firewood, which he never used. Find out why he cut them down and you might have the answer.
Oh, aye?
You must be precise, Smithers. You can't tell what may be vital. A tin tack swept away by a housemaid might hang a man.
But that's all there is, Lindley. Except that I did manage to sell some 50 jars of Noom Noom while I was there.
Oh, that's not important.
Maybe it isn't to you, but after all, it was the start of the case for us, you know. Besides, I made quite a bit of money out of that. You know, it helps pay the rent.
So it does. But I don't see that it has anything much to do with the case proper. It's been just sort of a catalyst in the case, setting things going and then standing outside it all, so to speak.
It's wonderful the way those bottles of Noom Noom sold down there, though.
No doubt.
It's extraordinary how a murder stimulates people's minds.
Smithers, what would you do?
Eh?
Supposing you had murdered that girl, that poor Nancy L.
I can't imagine doing such a thing.
But suppose you had. What would you do?
I don't know. I never even thought of such a horrible thing.
Smithers.
I suppose I shall never make a good detective.
At the moment, neither of us is anything much of a detective.
Hasn't any of the information helped? None at all?
None at all. Let's have our tea, shall we? Table's all set, and the kettle's boiling. Maybe that will help.
Yes, maybe.
So many sharp corners. All that's needed is the one piece to fit, and there it is. All together, as neat as a drum.
But we haven't got the piece.
It's there somewhere. Let's go over the whole thing again.
Oh, Lindley, not all over again.
If we're going to beat this thing, we've got to find out what it is that we've missed. We've got to. Unless you'd rather we left the whole thing. Forget it entirely. Admit we're beaten.
We ain't.
Well then.
Let's wait until after tea, please.
Very well. Meantime, you'll be glad to hear you've proved yourself a real salesman.
Huh?
I mean, I'll try some of that Noom Noom's relish on my salad. Would you give me it a little?
It's not for salads. Only for meats. Meats and savories.
What? What did you say?
Noom Noom. It's only good for meats and savories. You wouldn't want it for salads.
No good for vegetables, eh?
Not a bit. It's a good relish, mind you, but it's got its limitations.
A man might make a mistake, perhaps, and use Noom Noom with vegetables.
Not twice he wouldn't. No one would make that mistake twice.
Not twice, now.
What is it? What's the trouble?
Smithers?
Yes?
Smithers, phone down to the grocer at Unge and find out something for me.
Certainly.
Find out whether Seeger, this fellow, bought these 2 bottles on the same day as he probably did, and not a few days apart. He couldn't have done that.
Right. Operator, I would like to make a trunk line call to Unge. UNGE. To the greengrocers. Right. I'll wait. Right. Hello? Is this the greengrocers at Unge? This is Smithers. Smithers. I was in your shop the other day. That's right, with the Noom-Nooms. Tell me, this chap Seeger. Yes, the murderer fellow. He bought the Noom-Nooms from you. Right. Bought 2 jars of it at once, of course. No? He bought them separately? 6 days apart? Are you sure?
Ask him. Ask him whether he's absolutely certain. He's got to be absolutely certain.
You're sure of that? 6 days apart. Right. Thanks.
Smithers, it's...
But I don't see.
Call Scotland Yard immediately.
What you want is a good brandy and soda and go to bed early.
Call the yard.
Alright. But can't it wait until morning?
I must see somebody from the yard. Phone round. Say for them to come here at once.
I can't get an inspector from the yard to call on us at this hour.
Then tell them they'll never find Nancy Elf. Tell one of them to come here and I'll tell him why. They must watch Seeger till one day they get him over something else. Tell them I know the answer. I've solved it. I've solved the case.
Maybe I should never have started to tell this story. I'm a small man, as I've said, in a small wave business, and stories like this are not my dish. Lindley once said that murder is horrible, and he was right. Dead right. I wish I'd never gotten mixed up in this, because sometimes it still bothers me. I'm alright for a while, and then it bothers me again, and maybe this is the place for you to stop listening to my story so that you don't guess it. Even if you think you like murder stories. Most people like murder stories with a romantic twist, and not a story about a really foul murder. This is the one that people don't like, but that do happen. I know it because it happened to me, so if you want to, stop now. While I tell what happened later. While we waited for the inspector, Lindley explained it to me. But that's unbelievable. You're dreaming, Lindley.
I know what I'm talking about. It all fits in too easily to be a dream, Smithers.
But it's horrible.
Murder's horrible, especially when a man tries to cover his tracks. That makes it worse.
But
There's the inspector. Open the door, will you, Smithers?
Right.
I'm Olton, Scotland Yard. Are you Mr. Lindley?
That's him over there.
How do you do, Inspector?
You say you've got the solution to this case.
That's right, I have. The whole thing. So, let me tell you, you'll never find Nancy Elf. You'd better give up the search.
She's dead then.
Yes.
Murdered?
Yes. By Seeger, of course. But you'll never prove it.
That's to be seen. How did he do it? The murder, I mean.
With the axe. I can't give you the exact details. He may have killed her while she was sleeping, and maybe not. That part of it I don't know, but he did kill her.
And then?
Then he cut her up, using the knife and the file, and disposed of her.
Well, frankly, you've added not one jot to what we've got already in this case, Mr. Lindley. We've guessed all of that ourselves, only we're not as positive as you are. Well, I'd best be getting along.
Just a moment, Inspector.
Eh?
Aren't there a couple of other details that are troubling the police?
Of course there are.
Why not ask me about some of those before you go dashing back to bed?
Oh.
Come, Inspector. I said I have the solution, and I have.
Tell me one thing, Mr. Lindley. You know, of course, he spent his time cutting down the larch trees.
Ah, yes, Inspector.
I'll believe you have the solution if you can tell me what that has to do with the murder. If you know the answer, then why did he chop down the trees?
Solely in order to work up an appetite.